Were we really created to be bound by things like gravity and sickness and the slow march of time? Or is the reality we live in now just a drastically limited version of what was originally intended?
Okay, so the whole foundation for this idea starts with the belief that our original state mirrored our Creator's. I mean, the scripture says that God wraps himself in light as with a garment. So since we were made in his image, the thinking goes that the first humans didn't wear clothes made of fabric. They were literally clothed in divine light.
And this covering? It had a name. Let's call it the glory coat. But this wasn't just some faint glow or a little halo. No way. This was a living, radiant energy field. It was literally an extension of divine life itself, a totally integrated part of their being.
And this glory coat, this garment of light, it wasn't just for looks. It wasn't ornamental. It was deeply, profoundly functional. It was their source of incredible speed. It was their connection to unimaginable power.
And here is the absolute game changer this function unlocked. Humanity's original operating system. It didn't just run on muscle and bone. No, it ran at the speed of thought. What you could think, you could do. Where you could imagine yourself being, you could be. I mean, just think about what that means. When God told Adam and Eve to fill the earth and subdue it, they didn't need to build boats or pave roads. If you could think of a destination, you were just there. And this reality, a reality faster than light itself, wasn't some kind of miracle. It was just normal. That was human normal. But, of course, that is not our reality today. Something absolutely catastrophic happened. The original design was compromised in what you can only call the Great Downgrade, a dramatic shift from the speed of light to the speed of dust. We usually think of the fall of man as a spiritual or moral tragedy, and of course it was. But this perspective says it was something much more tangible. It was a physical, literal, dimensional downgrade. Humanity got demoted to a lower frequency existence.
And the consequence was immediate. The second sin entered the human story, glory walked out the door. That connection to the divine energy source was just severed. And those living, radiant glory coats, they just vanished.
And in that single instant, for the very first time in their entire existence, humanity felt something that was completely foreign to them. For the first time, they felt heavy. That instantaneous thought speed travel? Gone. That effortless power? Gone. And it was all replaced by this new, grinding reality. For the first time, they felt slow. And finally, without that inherent covering of divine light, for the very first time, they felt naked. So when Adam says, "I was afraid because I was naked," his fear wasn't about missing some fabric. He was terrified because he was missing a frequency. He had been disconnected from heaven's bandwidth, unplugged from the divine life that had literally always covered him. And the difference is just staggering when you look at it side by side. On the left, you've got our before state, operating at the speed of thought, fully plugged into heaven's bandwidth, capable of instantaneous travel. And then on the right, our after state, crawling along at the speed of dust, suffering from a missing frequency and trapped by physical limitation. So how does this ancient downgrade actually show up today? Well, that brings us to what you could call the physics of sin, the real tangible evidence of this lost velocity that we all experience in our everyday lives.
I mean, think about it. Every single sickness that attacks the body, every frustrating delay that holds us back, every single moment of futility, and just the inevitable decay of everything in this world. From this point of view, these things aren't just random, unfortunate facts of life. They are the persistent symptoms, the lingering echoes of a lost physics, of a lost glory.
Now, I know that sounds incredibly bleak, and the loss was just profound. But the story does not end in the dust. It doesn't even come close, because here is the good news. A rescue and restoration plan was put on full display for us to see. And the perfect example of what was lost being reclaimed is found in one of the most breathtaking moments in the Gospels, Jesus on the Mount of Transfiguration. Now really pay attention to the description here. This wasn't just a bright light. The scripture says his face shone with the intensity of the sun and his clothes became white as light. This wasn't symbolism, folks. This was a literal restoration happening right before their eyes. The glory coat was back online. And this incredible event, it wasn't just for him. It was a preview, a living blueprint, of what humanity is meant to look like once again. No longer sluggish and bound by time, but clothed again in glory, operating at the speed of thought.
So, if that's the blueprint, how do we even begin to access it? Well, that brings us to our final section, reclaiming heaven's frequency. Because the original design isn't just a memory, it's waiting to be reborn.
The Bible actually gives us a pathway. It says, "Those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength." Every act of obedience, every moment of true humility is seen as more than just a good deed. It's a step toward restoring fragments of that lost light, recalibrating our souls back to heaven's frequency, and preparing us for the day of full restoration.
And look, this isn't just wishful thinking. It is a promise, and it's anchored in the bedrock of Scripture. This verse in Romans makes it absolutely clear. The journey that starts with justification, being made right with God, has a guaranteed final destination, and that destination is glorification, being fully restored and clothed in that divine light once more.
So, what's the ultimate takeaway? It really boils down to this simple but incredibly profound idea. The original problem was a kind of treason, a turning away from our designed purpose and our alignment with our Creator. The solution, then, has to be the exact opposite, a life lived in complete alignment. And this isn't just about securing a home in the future, it's about beginning to reopen the frequencies of our original, glorious design right here and now.